Welcome to Seizing Valor, where we would discover God's path for manhood one conversation at a time. I'm Zack.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Josh.
All right.
So what we're going to be talking about for today is the current zeitgeist regarding people's opinions towards college.
I would have just summarized it as we're going to talk about college, but, you know, those words work too.
I do beat around the
zeitgeist for somebody in this meeting that may not know what that word means.
Or anybody who might be in the meeting that doesn't know what I mean.
Zeitgeist means the spirit or mood in history.
Yes.
Okay.
A
so
nice,
current,
large,
in history.
word.
Well,
you know, Joe
this
knows
will
that
be
word
history.
because he went to college.
5 seconds ago, it was history. I'm not the same person I was 5 seconds ago. I don't know if you guys know that.
No.
That's true.
And apparently you are a completely different person than the one you were 7 years ago, because that's how biology works, I've learned.
In what
All
way?
your
Like
cells have replaced themselves by that time.
Fair.
True that.
Crazy. So history, science, language arts, English.
Aliens.
We're just missing math. Skip.
Aliens.
Aliens. That's history now. That's what television tells me.
Yeah, there's no like good documentaries on the History Channel anymore. I should know. Now it's moved on to like Netflix and Amazon Prime, which I live on for those documentaries.
Nice.
Yeah. Or YouTube.
All right. So before we get into the college days that we talk about college, how's everyone's week or week and a half? We're recording a little late, but so week and a half, a lot more time to talk about.
Yeah, good. That was pretty good. This week I had a retreat that I played at. So through a high school had reached out to me. The campus minister at a high school shot me a message and said, "Hey, do you want to play at some of our sophomore retreats in the next couple of months?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds pretty good." So I drove out on Tuesday. I drove out to Montauk, which is the resort town at the very tip far end of the Long Island, and it was good. Did some music there. Did a little adoration, a little holy hour, and drove back. Took 2 hours to drive there, and about 3 hours back with traffic. And I was only there for like 45 minutes, but I got paid for it, so that was good.
It.
And then the kids' birthdays happened. We had the twins' 2-second birthday, and Eli just turned 4. We had celebrations for both days and good food and cakes and parties. Went to an aquarium. That was fun.
I was loving an aquarium.
The kids adored it, and we went at a really good time. We went, for them. I've been to this one. We went with Eli when he was like 6 months or 9 months, but he didn't remember it. And it was great. So we went in kind of the afternoon, and there was nobody there, which is perfect. So the kids just ran everywhere. They were like touching everything and running all over the place and getting all excited, and they were really cute and they did a good job. And I was so proud of my kiddos.
Yeah.
And some birthdays.
What was their favorite fish or animal?
So Eli, they had like these big, massive, like Alaskan king crabs, with like the really huge ones that are like almost the size of me, like the massive crabs. And Tank and Eli liked those. And then they did a little seal show. So we went outside, and the seal did all the cool tricks of waving and dancing and all that stuff. And the babies really liked that. Not babies anymore, like the toddlers, my tots, my twins. Enjoyed that. Plus all the fish and all that. Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, John, so they had a little like stingray section where you can go in. And there's always like a bunch of stingrays. You can pet them, And John, this kid, he kept putting his hand in, and they would come like try to like nibble on his hand, and he was like just laughing at it, like he wasn't scared at all. Like I was like, oh, like when they would come up, the dual mouth would open, and he would just laugh. That was the funniest thing. I was like, whoa, man! Like
that could have been a disaster had he been like crying,
Yeah,
I don't think he would have kept his hand in if he was going to cry.
Yeah, he probably would have run off, But yeah, so that was it. All fun things.
Cool, awesome. I always love anything where you add water. I'm always a fan. So zoo, add the water. Aquarium, good. Amusement park, add the water. Water park, I'm good. Like, just add water to anything, and I'm fantastic.
Yes. Very cool. Very cool. I've never been to a water park, and I've always been turned off because I've always heard that they were kind of yucky. But I mean,
You can't think about
it. It's only yucky if you pee in the
germs.
pool. It's only yucky if you pee in the pool, which I don't do.
All the water moves, so it's fine. Like water slide, wave pool, it's all moving. So it's fine.
It's not the same water it was 5 seconds ago.
Just close your mouth. It's fine. Don't think about it.
Or drink it.
It's just as sanitary as your standard like public pool.
Yeah, which I also don't go to.
Oh, well, we don't know how to help you there.
Yeah. It's good. All right, who's next?
I'll go. So the previous weekend, what I was talking about the last time with the funeral, it was just a packed, emotion-filled weekend. I was really thankful that the previous weekend, I just had absolute zilch. One errand I had to do, and that was that. I just got caught up on some guitar playing of my own. Watched some documentaries too. It was probably the most relaxing weekend I have had in a long time. It was just me, myself, and I. Loved it. And then I think that was good preparation, what needed to happen for this week, which was pretty stressful for work. There were a lot of incidents that I don't need to go into. But in order to counteract that, I played a lot of worship, instrumental worship music, which was, just what the doctor ordered, like in the midst of the chaos and the craziness. But yeah, that's it. Happy to be with you guys.
Nice. A nice short abridged version. Joe, just going for it.
I told him a lot more beforehand.
Yeah. Well, okay. So my week, I am continuing to get into the swing of things at the job. I'm in week 3, though it feels like I've been there a lot longer. I have talked to so many people. It's crazy. Though I don't feel like tired from doing it. Like I enjoy like talking to everybody, and it helps. I actually feel not as good when it's like when there's those quiet times where it's just me in the office. Like, well, I'm between things. There's not really anything for me to do. So I like being able to, go and meet people. I've met more youth ministers and adult ministers, campus ministers, just so many things. We had like a campus ministry event. That was this weekend, right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we had a campus ministry event this weekend with the bishop, where everyone just came for like a holy hour, and the bishop, both during like the homily and then afterwards, kind of gave talks about the Eucharist and everything, which was fantastic, which was amazing. And he didn't really have to do that. He really just got back from Germany, but he still did it, which was awesome. And I got to just meet all of the college students, which was great. There was even some there that were like not Catholic, or I'm not even, maybe were they Christian? I don't remember, but and they were there, and that was awesome. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're not Catholic and you're here? Bishop, get over here. Come meet this guy who's not Catholic. And he actually did it. Like the bishop actually came over and talked to him. I'm like, nice. Hope he remembers this. But yeah, so that was a really good time. The young adult group that I'm a part of now, we went and helped at a soup kitchen at the cathedral, which was really awesome. Really good people there. Just being able to serve just everyone's always so nice. Like that's the thing. It's like when Jesus was like, blessed are like the poor and the poor in spirit, like you can just see it, because like all those people are just, they're so grateful and they're so nice and so thankful. Like if you had and they'll just take they're like, here's what we can offer, and they take it and they're grateful. Like, you get people who are too well off sometimes. There'll be the ones who are like, oh, this isn't this particular, this is not a particular way, and blah 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 blah. So it just like really gives you some perspective. But it was also sobering, because it's just when you go to things like that, it's like the range of people you see. Like you see people that are like really old, but then I saw people that were younger than me. Like I saw people like their shirts indicated they just got out of high school not too long ago. And it's just sobering and sad. But was I reading something or was someone telling me? Either way, though, it like showed me it was actually in that book I was talking about before, the apostolic mission versus the Christendom thing. It was talking about the worldview, like what's the cultural worldview versus the Christian worldview, and this idea, anyway, within the confines of that discussion, they were talking about how as Christians, our job shouldn't be to end poverty. It should be just to serve and to love those in poverty. Which that sound, maybe people listening that sounds kind of cruel, or that, but it's not, because you don't want to get caught up in ending poverty, because that's like your excuse not to interact with people. It's like, oh, we're just going to end poverty, and then like you're focused on the political aspect, you're focused on like the stuff, like you're essentially turning the poverty into like the evil that needs to be overcome, so to speak, or of like, it was talking about how in the secular worldview, because people don't believe in God, therefore they don't believe in Satan. So, but then they have to come up with something to be the ultimate evil that they have to overcome. And so sometimes like these cause like stuff like poverty, like this idea is like, we have to end poverty, even though the people aren't helping the poor people, they're trying to end poverty, which is not really the same thing.
Yeah.
So this
it's like
idea,
people for like climate change.
What?
It's like the people with like climate change is kind of a similar concept.
Like that, the idea is like, instead of trying to like, not that climate change shouldn't be like addressed, but it's like address it by like caring for the environment in your backyard, like that type of thing, or like you're taking the love out of it. So, and the idea is we are not going to fix this world completely, and we are not going to completely end poverty. It's just not going to happen, because that means that's implying that we as people can completely fix the world, which is, and that makes us like God kind of thing. So like this idea is that everything will be fixed in heaven, not here, and we have to like love those people in poverty and give God the rest, like type of thing.
We have to surrender to that. I agree.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I articulated that 100% clearly, but it comforted me, because like, you know, you get overwhelmed when you go to something like that, like by the idea of poverty, but then like grounding myself, being like, don't worry about, and don't even worry about the long term, just worry about loving them and helping them today, right now. Like that's what you need to do. Like, don't worry beyond that, not in a cruel way of like, oh, it's not my problem anymore after that. It's like just what God wants you to do is to be here in this moment, loving these people, and not worry about like the big picture, you know, the bigger, I don't know. This, once again, I feel like it's not coming out right, but like this idea is like focus on the love. It's like the idea, and not worrying about like the big overarching part of it. So anyway, I hope I explained that correctly for everyone listening. Once again, I repeat, none of us here are theologians. We are just regular people trying to articulate as best we can our experiences. So yeah, we had that, and then just, you know, talking to lots of youth, young adult ministers, campus ministers, people in youth ministry, different like people from different dioceses. Like it's been a really good experience, and I've like really enjoyed being able to meet these people. Yeah, and just getting used to living in here. Used to living my new life. Every week I feel like I'm getting more of a handle. Like I feel like time is like slowing down a little bit more. So I feel like I'm better managing my time, and better, like my body is like adapting better to like the sleep schedule and all that stuff. I told you last week, Joe, when we were talking, that, you know, I'm going to the chiropractor now. You gave me the idea. I was getting really, really stiff and really out of whack. So I'm now getting my bones cracked.
Hopefully I'm so happy. I'm so happy for that, man, because chiropractor I had always had like okay posture, but as I start to get older, I noticed that my body will start degenerating and start getting all crooked. And it was already starting to happen. I just got my x-ray after the 8th month like track. So that was the whole track. And now I'll be focused on maintaining what I do have. I'm basically 95% there. I can show you my x-rays literally right now. I had a compare and contrast one. Let me see if I have this right here. Yeah. So here's my back right here. This is me literally in February. If you take a look at the two lines right there, that is what I was before. And look at the crookedness of my back right there. That it's gray because it makes the phone less addicting. But yeah, that's just how cockeyed it was. And then look at me this week. The other way. Oh, sorry. But this is me now. So it's not perfect, but look, that's so much better. There is the two lines converging, and it's just a little bit on the upper back. Isn't that sick?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. And then my neck had always been pretty good, like as far as this, because you want to have this C shape right there. You don't want it to be like perfectly straight, because that'll put harm on the discs. Yeah, I'm they were very impressed, especially by the neck. I've had such good mobility, so I implore anybody who's listening, at least entertain the idea.
Yeah. Your back actually, once again, your back's like the thing that connects your body to your brain. So like, when your
All
back's
the
out of whack,
nerves. Yeah.
all the stuff can get out of whack because of it. I'm thinking that a lot of the stuff I'm having is because of that type of nerve stuff. But so I'm hoping, I'm only 1 week in, so hopefully, that longer down the road like you've had, I'll be better off. So
because all those discs, they connect to all the nerves in the rest of your body. I'm kind of butchering the explanation, but I just find this so fascinating that the nerves in your body, like obviously they connect to all your organs, basically every major part of your body. And especially with those with heart disease, they don't know that they have heart disease until literally their first heart attack. I just feel like that's so crazy. And with chiropractic care, at least you'll get those signals maybe earlier.
That being just one example.
Yes. But they use that extreme case just to, make you think.
If you can't tell, based on this and a previous episode, Joe heavily endorses the chiropractor. So, so getting myself straightened out, and other than that, it's just like getting used to like what I'm going to fill my time with and like what I'm doing, and I'll probably get more. It's been more as much of a mental exercise as much as a physical one, in terms of like how I feel like I'm transforming and prioritizing my time and like being a different person than I was like a year ago. So, but I'll talk more about that some other time. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything important that happened. But yeah, so
nice.
All right, let's dive in, gentlemen. We are going to talk about college, and before we start, I'm going to reiterate that for all of those listening, we are going to be talking about college. There are going to be some criticisms that are thrown out. That does not mean that we completely disagree with the idea of college or think that we all obviously went to college. We've talked about that before, and we've all went
to the same one. Yes.
Yeah, all went to the same one. And at least we all had parts of that experience that were very good and great. And we say this because we do appreciate the college experience. And, when you appreciate something, you kind of, do point out its flaws and where it could be better. Yeah. So just keep that in mind as we're talking, that we're not here to say down with the college system, but we're here to say like maybe the college system needs to be refined a little bit compared to what it is. Okay. So now that that's out of the way, let's dive in.
Yeah. So Josh, Zack, and I went to a small liberal arts college. And to this day, would I still go back there had I had the other choice? Absolutely. Because the relationships that I've made, bar none, made me into the man that I am today. And for anybody listening who has not, thank you. First off, I currently, in my opinion, I have a lot of criticisms. Like in the current zeitgeist we live in, like a lot of people do have concerns about college. A lot of people say that a lot of people in the majority of the population that has worked or is working toward a degree say that you need to go to college in order to get a degree, in order to be financially set, which isn't necessarily true. You don't have to go to college in order to be financially set. However, many of these
you do need to go to college to get a degree, everyone. He said that. You just so you know, you do need to go to college to get a degree.
Yeah, I was saying, but to be financially set. That's what I meant to say. So my apologies. No, you don't need a degree at all. But
you just buy one online.
Yeah, just buy them.
I just bought paper.
The SNL skit on that is hilarious for anybody listening. To pretend that you went to Yale. However, many of these same people that say that stuff, the line's a little bit blurred. They see it the opposite way. Sometimes a lot of people just see college as a complex network labyrinth of debt.
Yeah. I think that is definitely a big concern right now, is that it's hard. The financial thing is the thing that comes to the forefront first. Like, it's hard not to talk about it. Now, there are plenty of people out there that get their college expenses paid for, whether they have the money, whether they get the scholarships for sports or for academics or for anything like that. But there are a lot of people out there that don't get that. They have to pay either part or all, and you have to take out debt in order to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that debt accrues interest, and they don't necessarily understand. The thing is, okay, 18-year-olds are essentially taking on debt when they fully don't understand what the debt is or what the ramifications of what it's going to be. We won't let them drink, but we are going to let them bury themselves in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. Yeah. And we're not going to bat an eye really about it. I mean, and I'm not saying this is every institution. I mean, there's plenty of financial aid representatives out there that are giving students as best as they can the full description of what is going on. But at 18, it literally does not always all sink in.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that. You know, when you're 18, your frontal lobe is not fully developed, not until age 25. I'm 27, mind you, and you know that's 2 years of my brain, at least I think I am. Maybe I'm regressing, of being fully developed. And you know, the thing is, throughout life, your preferences change. As far as your career is concerned, you expect people to around 18, or in some cases, people decide to change their major sometimes. And then junior year of college, you're required to declare a major. And even then you're young. You know, asking people to do that now in hindsight, it feels wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, you might know what you want at age 5. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like staying close to the finance. Well, I guess we'll come back to the idea of like deciding your life. Well, actually, no, I am going to circle back. I'm going to stay here. Okay. Like, the idea is that unfortunately, I think the system of jumping right from high school to college is, for most people, I think a flawed system. Like, I think for some people it works. I think like for athletes, especially, like you want that smooth transition. And for some other people that might be good. But I think one of the big problems is, having been a business major, one of the ways that salespeople convince you to make a decision is to put a time limit or something, or make you feel rushed. So like if they make you feel rushed, or give you a time limit, it's like you have to decide by this time, or this deal is going to end by this time. Like it makes you make a decision. And more often than not, that decision is not a good one because you're not thinking it through. And it's not that colleges do that necessarily, but the system does that. Like you have to decide on your college before you're done with high school, or that's the expectation. Like that's what people make you think you need to do. Like by the time I graduate, or even before I graduate, like several months before that, you have to pick a college and you have to pick a major. Like you even have to pick a major before you pick the college most often than not, because you have to like, oh, if you want to go to a college that's particular for your major and all that stuff. So that like they put this time limit on kids to rush them into a decision. And more often than not, these kids don't have the time to sit with that decision and to really think it out, because high school kids, even now, especially now, are so busy, like so busy. Sports, extracurriculars, all the ridiculous amounts of homework they give you in high school, like AP tests, SATs, like all of this stuff kids are doing. Like when is the time that they're supposed to sit down and figure this out? When's the time they're supposed to go out to colleges and do like this? Like, it's just not enough time. And there's so much in that high school mode. I really don't think they're in the proper state of mind to really reflect. I'm speaking as a guy who went to a different school my freshman year. I would consider myself, even though I think it was good for my overall journey, I picked wrong, like my first year. Like, and that, I'm going to say that probably was part of it. And not every kid's going to be the one that's going to start thinking about it when they're like 16. So this idea is that it's a rushed process, and then once again you're spending money and like all this stuff, and now you're in debt. And so I think that's a problem. And I think also the problem is I don't think all the choices are equally laid out before students. Like college is not the only option. You know, we can, and not just 4-year college. Community college, great option. We'll come back to this. But community college, great option. Go into the workforce, great option. Take a gap year, great option. And all those options, if you want to go to the 4-year school, it's still going to be there. Like, but I'm just saying, it's like, I don't think that the system's doing as many favors to the students to make them or allow them to make a fully thought out decision.
I think the mainstream kind of caters to that thought that you should go to a 4-year college that will provide for you the most. And they try to, as you said before, rush. I think that's being fed through by the mainstream. I think that's the main proponent, to be 4 years, and that's your only trajectory, which it's not true. So, yeah.
Thoughts, Josh?
Not really. I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. Yeah, I don't think I would have anything more to add to that. But yeah, I totally agree, 100%.
Yeah. Well, so kind of circling back, like this whole idea is that now I'm going to be here. I was a finance guy, so I'm always going to be very critical of debt. Debt, I know, as a finance person, I know debt is beneficial. Debt is beneficial because it helps keep the economy turning. But irresponsible use of debt is not. And I think the biggest, in a lot, financially speaking, America's always been in the worst trouble every time it's used debt irresponsibly. The 2008 crash was like one example of like this idea of like they were just giving out houses to anybody. Anybody can have a house. Anybody can have a house. Like doesn't matter what your credit history, doesn't matter how much money you've given, give you a house because you know why? Because we're taking all those mortgages, those loans, and then we're bundling them up, and then we are selling them to investors so that the investors get all the mortgage payments, and they get like the bank gets like a payment, like a concrete payment. Like right then and there, it's like, here, you give us this money, we'll give you all these mortgages, and then you will get the money coming from the mortgages. So the bank's like, we don't care who we give these things to because we're not going to have any risk because we're just going to sell them off and we get money. And so that irresponsible use of debt led to a financial disaster. So I think for many people personally, credit cards, they use it irresponsibly. They use it beyond their means to make money, the money they already had. Like, it's just, they just keep spending and spending and spending because it's money that they're allowed to spend that they don't have, which is a bad system for many people. So I think student loan debt is starting to fall into this same category. Like this idea is it's irresponsible use of debt that is just like we're pouring lots and lots of debt, like once again, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt onto kids who are eventually going to have to pay this off. Yeah. With not a whole lot. And the other side of this, the other token of this, other point of this is that there's not a lot of return on that investment. Like starting salaries are not high as much as they want to tell you otherwise. For most people, not high. And especially for certain degrees. Like it doesn't make any sense that for most liberal arts colleges, it's the same tuition for every single major. Because like a teacher is not going to be making as much as like a bioengineer. Like it's just not, it doesn't make sense. And this idea is it's going to be really hard. And that's also partly because every single job now seems to think that a bachelor's degree is required in order for you to do that job, which that was not the case a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
So, but then like that dilutes the market with degrees, and now the degrees don't mean anything. Like, you know, it's like,
and then you have to, constantly one up. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it's all, I'm not saying always be a cynic, but you got to keep in the back of your mind. You got to ask yourself the question, and for anybody listening, ask yourself the question, who benefits? Whenever you see like some type of inequality or some type of problem like that, who benefits? So the college system, truth be told, it benefits administrators, not teachers. I'm talking administrators and also investors as well. So I know back with the housing, roughly about 10 years ago, you have the subprime loan crisis. That's what it's called, subprime loan crisis. A bunch of mortgages, right, like Zack said, were bundled up, sold as bonds. Much is true, of course, with loans as well for college. This makes investors oh so happy because unlike mortgage debt, a student cannot forget about that student debt. Like you could declare bankruptcy and it wouldn't even matter. You're gonna have to pay that to the bitter crying end for decades, even, because that's guaranteed money for investors. When you have that house and you have to declare bankrupt, like that's you wouldn't end up paying for it. But this is a different story. Zach, am I correct in that statement? If not, let me know.
Well, I mean, the idea is the people who are getting the money are the universities. The ultimate person giving the borrowed money is the government.
Mm-hmm.
Like the government's actually the one. That's how it's different. Is the idea is the loans are given out by the government, so the money is given to the school in your place. So the government's really shouldering your debt for a time. So and like the government is and. This is also a problem. I don't want to talk about the whole entire government, but the idea is that the government keeps spending stuff and more and more and more and more and more, and our debt number just keeps going up and doesn't really mean anything anymore. Who knows? It doesn't. I don't know. But this idea is that you are always going to get the money because it comes from the government, and it's not as much greed oriented from the government because they know where they're not really getting anything from it. But like, my problem is I think the more people you put in between the transaction between A and B, the more people you stuff in the middle, the less personal it becomes. So therefore, the more out of control it comes. Like, I don't necessarily think it's always driven by greed as much as it is by impersonalization. So like, once again, there used to be bank, house buyer, and then all of a sudden now it's bank, house buyer, but in the middle is this investor guy, So now, like, same thing, like, school, for a lot of the time it used to be you school, you pay for it. Now it's you school, but the government's sitting in between you. Like, so like the more people you put in between, I think the more problems happen because everything doesn't directly impact anyone else. It indirectly impacts everyone else. And that causes a whole host of problems, I think, that people
and
don't.
Does the government, do they take any cuts out of the
well, they get your interest payments. So like they get the interest. So like the idea is like you have to, like, the longer you borrow the money, the more you have to pay in interest. For those listening, interest is just literally a percentage of what you owe is tacked on every month or every quarter, every 6 months, depending on the loan.
Yeah.
And you have to pay that off. Like, that's your price of borrowing. So that's like your price of holding off on paying the whole thing. So the idea is the government's getting the interest, essentially. That's like the benefit to them, I suppose.
The average for a person paying off loans is roughly 20 years, which that blew my mind because we're talking about a generation and then some, especially, the more admins that you do hire, depending on like what school that you do go to, because the bigger universities do have a lot more admins. And then we already talked about this issue, but especially when you're expected to know as early as 17, deciding your major and stuff like that, it just feels, I can't help but notice that it is wrong. Does anybody know anybody who's still paying off loans? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Like, people our age and people over our age. I know many who are like, and they know they're not going to be done for a very long time. So, which is ridiculous because when you think about it, you were talking about $200,000 worth of debt sometimes. That's a house.
Yeah.
So that's 20 years of your life that you cannot buy a house.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem with our, like that's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That, like, everyone people were buying houses. We're paying for something we already got.
Yeah. This can prevent you from 1, getting married, 2, buying your first home, 3, even getting further education. But, with this debt, the worst part of it is it's like a tax on your soul. It feels like it weighs on your conscience, your spirit.
I know it can feel like
I know, but there's but I will but here's the thing. I'm talking from like experience through somebody else that I know of. That's what his words, not mine. One individual that I do know, like, he, in hindsight, he's had multiple times that he's said multiple times that college, was a waste of time. He was a 4-year. Got nearly $100,000 in debt, still paying it off. He started a job in a grocery store. I think so, if memory serves. But, it was minimum wage. Smart guy, really, like, salt of the earth guy. He has this network of debt, like so many others of our generation do, where he had to pay about $200 a week on his loans, and he can't afford. He was getting paid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He wasn't getting paid much. He had to pay about $200 a week, and he just couldn't afford it because it was roughly $900 a month. He just can't do it. So that's what I meant by, like, it was weighing on his conscience. His words,
Yeah.
not mine. It makes you almost like, if this were me, you know, I've had a lot of good travel stories. That was something that I would have to sacrifice. It would make me less adventurous, for one thing. Like this guy, you know, you would defer on traveling. Maybe you wouldn't feel the urge to exercise as much, spend time with friends. You know, oh, sorry, I got to go to bed to get up for work because, you know, you got that debt on your mind.
I just, yeah, it's rough because it changes like the whole psychology of it. And partly, once again, just like one final thought on like the whole like taking on the debt thing is like this idea is the idea of debt and having the government pay for it and know that it's pretty much going to be there does not make you value the purchase as much. When someone else pays for something, you do not value the purchase. Like that's part of the problem. So like when you don't see that price tag that you have to pay right now, you're not thinking as much like about it because you know we're all about instant gratification like in our culture right now. And so like you're only thinking about what's happening right now. So if you're like, wow, right now I don't have to do anything, and then you're not thinking, oh yeah, 4 years down the road I'm going to be buried under a mountain of negative money. So I think that's my like. Do I think there's a better system than debt? I'm not here to talk about that. Like I don't know, but like I do think that's the psychological effect though. And the unfortunate part is that so two things, like from one perspective, like the market is so diluted. Like there are so many colleges out there right now. It's ridiculous. Like not that they don't have value, I'm saying, but there used to be far fewer colleges. And so, but there's not more people going to college, like you know, like this and I worked in higher education. I experienced this like every year. It's like the market doesn't increase, like the number of suppliers increases, like but the potential consumers does not increase. It's the same or it's going down because of population stuff. But like so, and then everybody, the more colleges come in, the more people, like the smaller these cuts of the pie go, and then like it's getting crazy. And then every school, in order to get a bigger piece of that pie, seems to think that they need to offer every single potential major under the sun, but then they're not very good at some of them, or they're like diluting all their resources trying to be a jack of all trades but a master of none. Like this idea is that some schools used to be known for stuff and you went there for that, but now you can go anywhere for anything, and it's not really that. It's not
special.
Yes, like that's the thing. Like there are still schools that are better at other things and like than other things, but like every school has business. Every school has, or every college has business. Every college has psychology. Like but it like no, why not just get rid of the stuff that you're at and then really focus on the stuff you're good at? But the colleges are going the opposite way. They're trying to increase number of majors. And then there's a whole nother host of reasons for that. And then like the idea is like, I love college athletics. I'm about to say something about college athletics, and I love college athletics, and everyone listening to this, I was in college athletics and I still think it's great. But at the same time, college athletics also drives this movement because people, they want to bring in good athletes. And the way you bring in good athletes is by offering as many different majors as you can so that you appeal to as many people as possible. So you get the people who are like, I want to go to this school and I'm good at sports, but I need this major. And they're like, we have that major. And it's like, great. So sorry. Anyway, this idea is I think the movement away from specialization has not been a beneficial one.
It's like people forgot why we're going to college, right?
Exactly.
The idea to go to college is to gain education, to gain knowledge and practical things, to then go out into the world and accomplish your vocation and to be well prepared for it.
Yeah.
And it's like people forgot that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of another big issue, right? I mean, we can sit here and talk about the financial aspects of it forever and how it's a bad decision. But I think in the world of the internet, like, what are these institutions doing that's different from the information that I can just gain from the internet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is free.
It makes it more valuable there than it would to some people at the university level.
I know obviously there's things that are very niche that like you have to either be doing it to know, or you have to be having someone present it to you to learn. Like for example, with mixing, or like the more like specific aspects of musical production, like you can't just look up, like you can't like find it online, no matter how deep, like how you have to like get it from an individual. So stuff like that is important, right? But I feel like, you know, when we talk about the college system and universities, like when it started, like, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, it was people going that were a little more privileged to go to these institutions to be trained by the people who had the knowledge, who had the education, who had the books, who had that, and then was handed that to them and was given
Yeah.
that to them. And we live in a world and a time where almost everything is accessible just by clicking it into Google, and you can gain all of that knowledge yourself without needing that. So kind of nowadays, it's more like you're just paying to have it presented to you in a certain way, as opposed to just learning the information on your own, right?
Well, on that
Well
same
said.
vein, I wanna touch on this fact that the back in the olden days, like with college, this idea. Well, this was also colleges came around when people were still doing like practical trades and stuff. Which, first of all, people are still doing practical trades, so people don't think that people still aren't doing hands-on work. And the idea was college was just another form of apprenticeship. But like the job you were going for was one of more academia, of more like critical thinking, of like you wanted to be a professor, you wanted to be an author, you wanted to be a I don't know, you wanted to be a scientist, you wanted to be a lawyer, you wanted to be, I mean, the big ones back in the day were you were going to either be a lawyer, a clergy, or a doctor, and like you had to go to like high level school. And everything else, like it was a good idea to go to school, especially if you wanted to be a researcher or a professor of some kind. But now for some reason everyone thinks that every single job you need to be an academic of some kind, which is not true. Like the idea is that you should be able to do more practical jobs without having to have like this high academic background. So like only a few people then went to college, and then everyone else like worked in the trades and like or worked at jobs, and they're not even necessarily trades. Not even just trades can be done without a college degree. There's
Or
just
just the family business or whatever.
Yes. There's so many things that you could still learn. But now, once again, the expectations that everyone seems to think that you need a college education in order to succeed. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the right to be able to do this, but I think that it should be put out. And I'm not saying like people shouldn't be able to get knowledge. Like I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that like there's so many people out there though that the college is just not for them. Not because like they're not smart or not because they're not good enough. Not any of that stuff. It's just that like that's not what's going to make them into the best version of themselves, or that's not going to help them do their job or their vocation to the best of their ability. And it will either be a waste of time or it'll be like an incredible stressor on them. Like I know so many people who went to college and just found out the whole thing was just not for them.
Yeah, the same guy I told you about before. The guy that it feels like he got screwed. He just didn't like that he was forced to go by his parents. And that's inevitably what happened. That's a tragic tale.
Yeah, but we're in this culture where everyone thinks that like that you need that. Like I'm not saying it's not a good and that you shouldn't aspire to that. Like especially if you want to go into something high level academia. Like it is valuable.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's bad to want. It's just I don't think it's fair to put into everyone's minds that that's like the ultimate. Like that it's part of the American dream or whatever, like that the necessary American dream. Like the American dream can take a lot of forms, and that doesn't have to be a part of it. It does not have to. That you can be good, you can be successful. Some of the most successful people in our country did not go to college. Like that's just the way it is. And like you should not be ashamed if you want to do something that's not academic, that doesn't require college. You want to be a plumber, you should be dang proud to be a plumber, because we need those people way more than some of the others. Like or like I don't know, like a carpenter, or like if you want to work for like the road people, like the Department of Transportation, or like something, like you should not feel ashamed of that. You should not feel bad about that. And you should not feel like, oh, I have to go get a degree in business only to circle back to do what I really like to do. That doesn't require a degree. I'm sorry, I'm getting really heated and my voice is getting loud. But like this idea is I hate it that people are being shamed out of doing what they want to do because people are telling them it's low class, that it's not good enough, or any of that stuff. First of all, I know plumbers and stuff, they make bank. Okay, they do. Like a lot of tradespeople make way more money than I do.
More than the average bachelor degree.
But people want us to, like, that's the thing. I hate that our culture makes those people be ashamed when they are just as much professionals and workers and people as all the rest of us, and they work just as hard.
And that's the interesting thing, is that people who decide to go into, for one, trade school, immediately after high school, you will have that versus somebody who went for those 4 years of the bachelor's degree, who doesn't have the experience. Say that they want to go back to get their bachelor's, they have so many years of experience, or even like going to go travel or something like that, if they have the capability to in those 4 years and then go get their bachelor's. You have so many years of experience in that socialization aspect.
Well, and then also you just learn who you are as a person, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have a
Yes.
better idea of what it is you're meant to do and what you should be doing. Like, and that's the problem with having an 18-year-old being pressured into throwing them at a school and throwing them into a major, whether or not they even know that that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I think is dangerous, right? Because they need to learn who they are first. And I feel like the majority of people learn who they are while they're at college.
Yeah.
After they've already made the decision of
Mhm.
what career path they're going to take. And so they get
Yeah.
thrown into these positions of whether, oh, well, I don't like this, so I want to do this. And
But
then
it's
what
too late.
happens, right? Then it's either it's too late or they transfer and then they're stuck in it for another additional 4 years outside of the 2 years they already spent doing this one program, and then adding even more debt on top of them.
And the risk is
and-
you feel disenfranchised.
Yeah, and if they just waited a couple years and found out who they are and like, oh, I don't like accounting, I like whatever engineering, and so I'm going to do that instead. Then they wouldn't be, or I want to do plumbing, or I want to do something that's better. It's of the earth and trade, helping people and
Yeah.
all that. So
Well-
yeah, there's a lot of arguments for this here. And we are
Well, on that
destroying universities.
I mean, it's not all just about the universities. It's once again, we're not saying 4-year universities
No,
are bad. We're just saying
it's-
they're for particular people. But before we get off this point, I want to kind of talk about what Josh said. This idea of discovering who you are. I think that is extremely, extremely hard to do while you're in high school because you are in this world of expectation, of regimented expectation. You are expected to be a certain way, not just like in terms of going to school or like being like the child in your family or like all this stuff or go to these events. But this idea is that you've grown up, more than likely when you're in high school, you have grown up with these same people for 18 years. And they have preconceived notions of you. You have preconceived notions of them. You have preconceived notions of what you think they think of you. Like this idea is this image. Like you have to keep up the image, whether you realize it or not. And you are not actually free to figure out who you are or what you want. Like well, some people are. Some people are able to rise above that or get out of that and be able to really discover that. But I think most people are not. And so that's why I think people should take time away from that, like after high school, in order to really figure that out. Because I think you would actually figure it out pretty quick. Like as soon as you get out of that environment, I feel like you would figure it out faster than you think. I think most people within a year would probably figure it out. Whereas in college kind of delays that process a little bit because you kind of get back into like not the same because they're not the people you've grown up with, but you have to, it takes a little longer, I think, to shed off that like, the expectation. And independence. But I think most people within a year or two, I think, of being out of high school, I think would have a way better idea as to what they would want to do if they went to college. Like I think I personally do. Now I have no scientific evidence to back that up, nor personal experience, but I would think so. I know a few people who felt like that. Like as soon as they left their parents' home for like a hot second and just lived out on their own and were free of the expectations and the preconceived notions, they were like, I figured out what I want. Like, so that just kind of on Josh's point of this idea is like discovering yourself before you make your moves.
Yeah.
Well said.
So yeah, that's it. Sorry, I interrupted you, Joe. That I wanted to get that in.
No, I really want to go into like if we close out, we close out. But I definitely do want to close out with a little bit more positive messaging because, that ultimately finding freedom and knowing like who you are. Especially in Christ, is paramount, especially in this daunting process.
Yeah,
and like I feel like the term vocation, right? Like oftentimes is only associated with like Catholics, but like we have to get that back into like the modern day lexicon again to realize that like you were made for a purpose and you are geared and you desire a path and something was put down for you. And it's ingrained within you as a human, and as whatever it is. And so it's important for us to kind of do that soul searching and to realize what it is. Like me, like I've denied it for a long time. Like I went to school for music and then I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Forget it. It's not going to make me any money. So I'm going to do ministry. And then that was horrible. It was an awful time. And then I was like, no, I'm going to go back to where my heart is. And that's with music. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to pursue that for the rest of my life. And I don't care if I never succeed. It doesn't matter. Like I'm going to do that because that's what I'm meant for. And I know that's what I'm supposed to do. But like for a lot of people, you have to do that soul searching, right? As opposed to being told or having your parents tell you or your friends tell you or your community or society or whatever it is. You have to look inward and say, what am I made for? What do I love most in this world? What am I going to pursue? With reckless abandon, who cares about status and fame and all that other stuff? What do I love most in this world? And I feel like high schoolers, they get so busy and there's so much noise that they don't have that like self-reflection. They don't have those moments where they realize, I don't like this. Or like, I don't want to do this thing that my parents are forcing me to do every week. Like, I don't want to do these things, or I want to do these things and I'm not doing them, because they don't have that time to really sit with themselves, or they just distract themselves with a phone or videos and movies, video
which
games,
is becoming
and all this stuff.
closer to, which is becoming reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it is reality.
If they didn't have that, they had those moments and the time to be like, I love, engineering, or I love
theater
or theater or whatever it is, and then they know
baskets, like
whatever it is, and then because they don't have those experiences as much, I would argue, and I think that makes it difficult. So then they kind of look to the world, or they say they either want to just become like an influencer, or they want to become like a wealthy doctor, like their parents are forcing them to do.
And that's what so many people run after money, because like A, it's gonna help you pay the debt. And B, like, that's what our society expects. It's like, oh, you get money, you'll be comfortable. Like,
that will make me happy.
Yeah. But
the
as
love
you
of
said,
money is the root of all evil.
But as you said, Josh, like not enough silence. You're right. High schoolers do not have enough silence. And that's so important, because you can also talk your head off to God, but if you don't pause and be silent, you're never going to hear him answer. No. So like, and they don't do that enough. Yeah. I was just actually at a young adult event, and like we talked about discernment, and the one thing, like the simple question that you need to ask, you need to calm yourself, you need to quiet yourself, and you need to ask God, who are you? And then who am I? Like, because we're made in the image and likeness of God. So by knowing God, we can know ourselves, and vice versa. But like, God, who are you? And who am I, as in who have you made me to be? So like, and it's that simple. But then you gotta wait. You gotta wait and you gotta listen. Like, but that's the simple question. And I don't think kids ask that. The kids don't ask God. They ask everyone else. They ask the media, they ask social media, they ask their parents, they ask their friends, like they ask, or they're like, what people are asking themselves are like, who is everybody else? And who do they want me to be? Like, or what do they expect me to be? Yeah,
begging other people, tell me who I am, as opposed to seeking it out through the one who made you.
True. It's true.
Yeah.
Identity, right?
Yeah.
Identity.
And the unfortunate social pressure too that comes with college. We talk about like the financial pressure, but like, like in business and all that stuff. But like, there's the social pressure to going to college too, of like people expect you to go from a social perspective. Like if you'll be a social outcast if you don't go, which is unfortunate, I think.
Right.
But that also shows how much of a social experience college has become. So that's one of the main benefits of colleges, but also one of its drawbacks is that it's become a social experience, which is great. Obviously, we all wouldn't have met if we didn't go to college. And so the social element is fantastic. But like they tell us with athletics, it cannot be the main reason you go.
Definitely.
Yeah, you have to go because you are searching after something or trying to be something. And then if you meet some awesome friends along the way, and then that's just a bonus.
Achieving your vocation, realizing what it is that you were meant to do, who it is you were meant to be.
So our practical advice, it sounds like we're winding down here.
It does.
But our practical advice, let's give some practical advice. So obviously the first one we just said is
Joe,
pray.
did you want to jump in with anything else, Joe?
Joe, did you want to say anything before we
go ahead, please?
No, I was just about to agree that like, yes, pray and sit in silence, because that's That's paramount when you're trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah. Pray,
Yes,
sit in
pray.
silence. But no, there's other options out there, everyone. No matter what anyone else tells you, especially your guidance counselors. This is another thing I'm going to go off on a tangent about, because I think guidance counselors need to do a better job pointing people to multiple directions. But anyway, despite what your parents, your friends, your guidance counselors may say, there are other options out there for you, except other than a 4-year college, or even a liberalized college, which might be more expensive. So consider, if you want to go 4-year, consider it's at state school, a lot cheaper. Consider community college. People, please consider community college. It is the same. If you're going for an education, it's still an education, and it's just as good, no matter what everyone else says. It is, and you only go for 2 years, and it's way cheaper. And it can be a thing that if you go and you like it, great. You can go on, then apply, and only take 2 more years to get your bachelor's degree. Good. If you don't like it, you only have to be there for 2 years, and you're not heavily indebted. Like, that's the thing. So consider community college. And plus, most community colleges, especially one close to your home, you can save money on living at home. I know that sounds terrible because you want to get away from your parents, but you're going to be thankful in the long run.
Yes.
Consider trade schools. Consider just getting a job or taking a gap year. Travel. Get a job. Do something. Get out of the house.
Yeah, that's
If
what
you
I think.
get a job that's good enough, maybe
Get an
live with some
apartment.
roommates that are also taking a gap year.
Get a house, get an apartment, get a job.
Even if it's a
figure out who
really
you are.
crappy studio apartment,
Yeah,
just
who
get it.
cares?
Just get it.
Yeah, we get out of the house.
Yeah,
Your parents'
do some
house, I
soul
mean.
searching.
Yeah,
It
figure out
doesn't
who
mean
you
you're
are.
not going to go to a 4-year college. It doesn't mean that like you're going to go when you're 30. It just means that you like take a break for a second and just figure out if whether or not you want to actually keep going to school or you need to. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I know that
So-
we're kind of closing here, but I'll just want to say one quick thing from my own experience. We believe that the system is designed for like you have like a high school senior, right, to go to college, and even there's a lot of like financial things that kind of encompass with that too. So say like you stop and you wait a little while and you're worried about the financial aspect of it. I will say it's not that bad. It's not that bad because I think you're told, oh, if you don't go now, you'll never be able to go. You'll never be able to afford it. You'll never be able to get the aid. And I can say just from someone who's, I just turned 27. I went back to school at 26, and I was able to get 75% of my tuition paid off through additional loans. So it's possible, guys. It's possible.
Yeah.
You take your time. And don't be too worried about it. And then through working, I had money to pay off the rest of it. So
This idea is that you're entering the world from high school at 0. You're entering the world through college at like negative 200,000. Like it'll be fine. And I've heard this from so many people who took gap years. Like you will be better in college. Like if you take a gap year, like you will be more focused. You will be more responsible. You'll see the value better. Like you'll value it more, and like you'll be more efficient at doing it. Like everyone says that the people who come back to school are always better than the people who just jump straight to it. So, and once again, though, as we were saying, that doesn't mean 4-year colleges aren't that you shouldn't do that, because like you could be someone who's really into academia and you're really ready for college, and that's great. You go for that. Like, especially if you you want to be a doctor or something like that. Yeah, you should probably start that because that takes a long time. Or as we mentioned the example before, if you're an athlete, it is kind of hard to take that break and jump back in. But please be wary. Do not go to school just to be an athlete. Education is important. That's the primary reason you're there. So always make sure it's, speaking from personal experience, make sure it's always coupled. But understandable if you want to kind of jump straight in from that, because it is really hard to self-train and or not train and then jump back into it. So like I understand that too. Any other practical advice? Actually, really look at the debt. Talk with someone and trust just about the whole debt thing, and the whole way it works out. Get the whole thing explained for you. Make sure you understand it.
Get married young and get 2 incomes, and then it makes it much easier.
Entirely fair.
Get married really young. There you go.
Marry anybody.
Yeah. So, anything else?
Preferably someone who makes a lot more than you do.
Marry someone who's old enough to already be out in the working world and having a lot of money already. We are not promoting gold digging. on Seizing
I'm
Valor.
just saying it works.
Make friends with really rich people, or the kids of really rich people, or something. I don't know.
At least it'll
wait,
at least
just
it'll
don't pay
help
it off, and then just get a the debt forgiveness. Like
in your travels in your
Go
gap
find
year.
pirate
Try to
treasure.
in your travels in your gap year, go to New York City and find any old rich person and just talk to them and just wait for the inevitable. I don't know. That's kind of dark.
Just,
No.
just keep sitting next to them on the same park bench every day
just
until
keep sending a letter to Jeff Bezos every single day
yeah.
until he gives you the money.
There you go. Or just keep tweeting at Elon Musk or something.
And then he'll
like that.
send you
Yeah.
to wherever you're going to out in outer space, and there you go.
Yeah, they might send you to outer space to go to college. So you never
And
know.
then you'll never come back.
No more debt.
All right.
No more debt.
Debt
So
debt
Go
solved.
team. All right, let's pray. Okay.
yes, let's do it, everybody. So once again,
Zach,
college is a great thing, but do it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Just pray.
And think about it.
Just take a second, shut off your phones, pray, talk to the Lord, ask him who he is and to help reveal himself to you, and then ask him to help reveal yourself to you through
And
his
don't-
eyes. Who am I through your eyes, Lord? Who am I through your eyes? Just take a second.
And don't be
That's-
ashamed to follow through on that, even if that goes against what the culture expects.
Amen.
What we'd like you to all do right now is to subscribe to us on YouTube at Seizing Valor, and also follow us, Seizing Valor. Also, that's what it's called. I assume. I hope. I made the account on Spotify, but also at Seizing Valor on Instagram. We do post additional content that we hope that you guys have the privilege of taking a look at and putting us on your feed. Also, if you have any extra prayer intentions, if you want to keep it public, then put it in the comments of Instagram and YouTube, or if you want to keep it private, we have an email, seizingvalor@gmail.com. All right, pray us up, Zach.
All right, let's bow our heads. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today, the three of us, and all of our listeners, wherever and whenever they are listening. Thank you for the friendship and the conversation. Thank you for our college experience, the three of us, and for the gifts that you gave it to us through it, which not the least of them being our friendship. But at the same time, please guide the American college system as we go forward. I think it's no secret to anyone that it could use some adjustment. Not an elimination, but just some adjustments. What that is and what's best, Lord, you know, we do not. But guide it and help it find the next stage and the best stage for all the people it is trying to serve. Please bless all of those that are currently in college or university, or in any other track for a career, vocational school, community college, tech school, whatever it may be. Please bless them, and please guide their formation into what you will for them to be. Please bless all high school seniors and all those others who are approaching college decisions, that you may give them the grace to quiet themselves and to speak with you honestly and openly, and then listen to find out who it is you made them to be, and then give them the courage to follow through on the steps to become that, whatever it may be, whether it's expected or not. Please bless all of those who are living under so much heavy debt, that you might give them comfort, that you may give them relief, even if it's only spiritually and psychologically, that they may trust in you, that you are guiding them and helping them even in their financial struggles, and that there will be an end in sight. And just bless all of us, that we may take some time to slow down, and we all may figure out who you made us to be in every moment, that we may truly listen to you, and that we may love all people, shed our preconceived notions and our prejudices about whether it's the educated or the uneducated, those who go to college, those who don't go to college, people who go to gap years, people in trades. Please shed all of our preconceived notions about those things and realize that everyone has a purpose that is equal in your sight. and that all are valued, that all are important. Yeah, and I just pray that that all of us may be blessed, especially those at this very moment who need the prayers most. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, boys.
Thank you all for checking in with us. Take care.